I have to take care of myself or I'm not going to be best able to take care of Ren. And this goes out, shout out to anybody who is a coach, a parent, a spouse. Like, you got to take care of yourself. You got to take care of yourself because when you're taking care of yourself, you can better take care of other people.
Work it all speak for itself. Grinding in silence, ain't nothing to tell. When we step on the court, we gon' bring it to light. And we stop and pop like we caught it a light. Stop asking what's wrong with me. You already know there's a dog in me. If there's no stopping my focus, man, make sure all my people gon' ball with me. Yeah, I came to compete, I'm a dog with it. Yeah, I came to compete with my paws in it.
What's up, Compete Training Academy family? Welcome back to another episode of the Compete Mentality Podcast. The Compete Mentality Podcast exists to motivate, educate, and inspire you guys to compete. My name is Courtney Delks. I am your podcast host, and I have a very, very special episode today to really paint a picture of the vision of where this podcast is going and some really awesome topics and announcements. But before we do, I wanted to announce that we have some brand new mindset programs coming out right now. This is for kids all the way through adults. We have Dream Season Metamorphosis, 8-week program to a strong mindset. We have Dream Season Double Down, a 12-month program commitment. We have our regular Dream Season Level 1, 2, and 3 programs that are for entrepreneurs, doctors, CEOs, basketball players, athletes, coaches, anyone who wants to realize their purpose at a deeper level. And without further ado, I want to introduce my wife, the boss, Courtney Delks. Courtney, thanks for joining us today.
What's up? Happy New Year, everybody, and excited to be, I'll let you come up with the word, but be back on the podcast, and let's do this thing.
Let's do it. I was trying to think of a word to introduce you again or an analogy, and what I came up with was MJ retiring, going to play baseball, and then he came back to basketball. And essentially, as you and I have discussed our vision of where Compete Training Academy is going, where you're going, where God is leading you, where God is leading me, but specifically we're going to dive into where God is leading you today. And I want to compare it to that. Like, you were, as the founder of Compete Training Academy in 2015, and then God took you on a little kind of a left turn, so to speak, of a direction of where he wanted you to spend your time. And now it's kind of coming back to your love and what you're created for. So I think that's the best analogy of MJ going to play baseball, coming back.
I like to think of myself more as Eminem. Guess who's back?
There we go. Back again. Simo's back. Tell a friend. There you go. So, first thing I want to do, tell us, so when we started the podcast in 2020, me and you were co-hosts leading this podcast, and we were hammering like 3 episodes a week. Then, just full transparency, you and I, we couldn't keep that pace up, and we really put a pause on the podcast for a second, and then we brought in, we decided that the podcast is very important to us. Getting the message of compete, doing what God calls you to do, even when it's hard. We started seeing lives transformed. And we're like, we have got to get this message out. God is using this vehicle of compete everywhere, all over the world, all over the country. And yes, we have to have the podcast. So that's when we hired Matt Seiwert.
Shout out Matt.
Shout out Matt, who has helped us in, I can't even begin to how many ways to help grow this podcast, to help make this a quality podcast for you listeners. And all that to say, I took it over and I had been really running with it for a while because God had directed your time in a different area. And now you're coming back to be co-host with me again. And I'm so excited of where we're going to go this year with the podcast.
Absolutely. When we started the podcast, I'll never forget, the very first podcast was with Gary Kloppenberg. He was the WNBA Coach of the Year that year in 2020. They had just won a WNBA title, setting out in the old dairy barn with a WNBA coach from all the way across the country. He was generous enough to come on. I met him when I was helping out with Indiana Fever. He was an assistant coach, and he was on the podcast. And the new barn that we have didn't even exist then.
Right.
And when we started filming and we were doing those, so like we live out in the country, and our internet at that time was like it would take a day to like upload stuff, and sometimes it would go like it was. Then it would stop. It was like a train
Gotta go to
wreck.
a coffee shop, whatever.
We had a 3-year-old and we had a newborn.
Yeah, exactly.
So mama, I mean, I'm nursing. You know,
Yep.
I'm up all hours of night. So I'm up all hours of night.
Yep.
Checking the podcast. So like when it started, but when we started it, this is a message. Is like if God lays something on your heart.
Yes.
You got to do it. You got to take action. If you don't do it, He will find somebody else that is going to do it. And so it was so important for us to do it. And so we grinded. On the flip side, you guys saw the podcast and you saw it coming out. But like the grind at the Delks house was real. Newborns, podcast, sucky internet, but you make a way. And here we are. And I'm so thankful, like you said, for Matt, who has been able to take that off on the producing side, where we can really just dial in on the message that God's laid on our heart that we need to share with
the world.
With the world, with souls. Yes. Because that is what we are here to do.
So I want to dive into you for the podcast episode. I mentioned that God kind of directed your time recently, really since 2021, 2022. Tell us, where did God direct your time for the past couple of years where you haven't been co-host? What have you been doing?
So what I've been doing is coaching the two greatest people that I'll have on my team my whole entire life are kids. So Grayson and Caroline. Grayson's now 6, Caroline is now 4. So if you go backtrack, like it was baby years, it was toddler years, and anybody who knows me, like I'm going to go all in, and I'm a complete want to be in the present moment. Like I'm not going to let anything outside of my calling really dictate me or distract me. So, I had opportunities to go be a coach or go do all these things, but I wanted to be there for every moment of, our kids are little ones. And I remember like every time you're out, people say, enjoy it. It goes fast. And it's like, you start getting like, you're like, shut up. Like everybody says it, but then when I see people that are having babies, like I kind of want to say the same thing, but I know not to because it's kind of annoying, but it's so true. Like time is a vapor and it's here and it's gone. And so I am so thankful and so grateful that during the time when our kids were babies and, that I was able to be completely present, that I was able to really devote myself to them and kind of take a little bit of a step back in some of the things I was doing, but I was still doing it. Like, y'all know, you guys come, I'd be out there 8-9 months pregnant training kids. Like, we're still doing those things. But like you said, my time has kind of went a different way, especially over the course of this last year and to the year and a half before that. One of my clients was in a traumatic accident that was near a death experience. She was hit by an impaired driver who was high on marijuana in the middle of the day. She was on a motorcycle. She just turned 19 years old. And you and I went on an anniversary trip to Brown County. And I'll never forget, so y'all know JD, he ain't going to let anybody dictate his schedule either. He's going to be in bed. Like he is committed to, I'm going to bed early because I'm going to get up early. So like you were in bed, I don't know, probably 8:30 at night or something. And I'm like, man, we're down at this cabin. We don't got the kids. Like, I'm going to go sit outside and have a fire. And you're like, that's fine, but I'm going to bed. So I went outside, and I spent probably 2 or 3 hours on that porch in the dark around a campfire by myself with Spirit, and I kept getting the whisper. And I always say God speaks in those whispers, and it was work, go full-time with Ren. And I'm sitting there thinking, I've never worked with a traumatic brain injury patient before. I've I know I know the health and fitness side. I've studied it. I know how the body works. I know goal setting. I know how to motivate and coach people. But I'm like, I don't feel qualified. God, like I remember I'm like battling it, but it just kept being whispered to me, and so I said okay. And over the course of the next few months, I had the conversation with their parents, and so for the last year and a half, I've been full-time working with a traumatic brain injury patient.
Yep.
And it has been life-changing for me. It has been exactly where I needed to be spending my time at, and I have learned so much about the human spirit, mind, soul. I've deep dived into it, studying it. I can't wait to keep talking more about this, but that is where I've been spending my time at.
Right.
She's getting better. And so that's where I'm starting to have this guess who's back again.
Yep.
Because
and not only were you with her all day long during that time period, 5-6 days a week, you completely spearheaded Compete Training Foundation as the leader of that, and fundraised and helped Corinne's recovery. Not only did Corinne's recovery be fundraised through the Compete Training Foundation, but now there's other traumatic brain injury patients that are being impacted by you listening to the whisper and going all in, first with Corinne, then leading this whole movement with the Compete Training Foundation that has spread, I'm going to brag on you, that has spread nationwide. And not only are people giving from all over the country to help these patients, but it's really cool to see. Now we got some of the best college athletes all over the state of Indiana aware of this and promoting it on their platforms as well.
Yeah, so in 2021, that's when the foundation became official. And at the time, we thought it was for building a facility, Christian mindset focused here in Marion that was going to be open. And we had meetings. We were meeting with donors. There was big talk going on.
Yep.
And it was started to help these kids. At the time, I didn't know it, but you take a step, and faith is doing things you don't know what it's for. You can't see it. Okay, and so on that porch in Brown County that night, of out by myself, really just doing the inner work, deep work, we like to call it. I forgot to mention that this calling was put on, but I knew I was supposed to do it, but am I going to, we have a family support, we're all those things. It was a question mark. Like, I wasn't stepping into, okay, I'm looking through these different options, and I have a salary here, then this is a job. Like, this is just a calling. Like, you're being asked to step into something without, like, just complete
you're not getting paid.
Complete dive in. And so, what I've learned from diving into this with families is, so a brain injury patient, so insurance goes based off of like how you're progressing.
Right.
Corinne one of my patients was completely wrote off by a neurologist 9 days after her accident, said she would never wake up. Completely false. Okay, that's not true. Everybody who follows her story, she is the most witty, alive person. Or another boy who was in a non-fatal drowning accident that we helped support. Same thing, coded, wrote off. He gets some care and help with some of his stuff, but not a lot.
Yep.
So, but Corinne is completely, like, insurance-wise, does not get any. She can get 20 PT sessions a year.
Right.
And for those of you guys who know neuroplasticity and relearning, she's relearning how to walk, like, that ain't going to help nobody.
Nobody.
Like, that is absolutely ridiculous.
Yep.
Is what that is. So,
it is.
It was put on, family. An accident doesn't just affect the person that it happens to. It affects a whole entire family.
That's facts.
And her mom was a nurse at the time, so her mom had quit her job. She'd been out of work for a couple years. Her dad has a job. Her dad's working, but, like, they don't get a break.
Mm-mm.
Like, I get a break on the weekend, but
they're living it.
Right. And like I said, like, it was like she's waking up in the middle of the night. Like, she can't walk herself to the bed. Like, everything, it's like they don't get a break. So where I felt called was to come in, okay, we can help spearhead this and let's go raise money and awareness about this.
Right.
Because her story is going to impact, and it already is inspiring people all over the nation.
Yep.
We have a crew that's coming here from Australia in April that is going to film. And 2 years ago, this will go back to a whole session of mindset. 2 years ago, we would spend a lot of time walking down these country roads, me and Corinne together. She was an e-pacer. I told her, it's the trust the process.
That's it.
It's the same exact thing with anybody. Trust the process, trust the process. You're doing the work now. You're in the work. You're in the process. You are going to inspire millions, and your story is going to be told, but you got to do the work.
She's got to do the work.
You got to do the work. And 2 years later, here we are.
That's what I was about to say. Now, you got her where she was in 2020.
I want to say God got her, and
100%.
her spirit.
No, I'm saying yes,
never. And her
100%.
Yeah.
But I mean, when she showed up to work with you full time, tell the audience where she was then, and then where she is now.
Yeah. So when Corinne started, so they were driving all over the state, putting buku miles on their vehicles. You know, you're on the road, you're going through Chick-fil-A, you're just in survival mode.
Right.
Honestly, you're trying to get your kid to the appointments they need to, and so I started to see the effect that this was wearing out her mom. Her mom was wore out. I could see it. Corinne is wore out from somebody who has a brain injury who's driving in a vehicle. That's exhausting. Your brain's thinking so much. That's very, very exhausting. So the fact she was able to even be awake for sessions, they would go to all these sessions down in Indy, then they would come to our barn at 8 o'clock at night.
Right.
Because I kept hearing this with she works harder here than anywhere else.
Right.
There's this
well, you guys have a soul connection.
The connection. So when Corinne showed up, so she was in a wheelchair, could walk with people on each side, but very, very weak, dragging her foot, just overweight. Because when you're set in a wheelchair, you're not burning.
Right.
You're not burning fuel. You're in the car all the time. So when she came, it was somebody who had potential, but was going to need, let's get after it.
Right.
And she was also very exhausted. So a lot of the times when she was here, we would work for an hour, and I would say, Corinne, I want you to take a nap, because it's all about building trust with whether it's your clients, whether it's your kids, your spouse, your whatever it is that you're building your team, you have to build trust. And so I wanted to create, I'd bring her to our house, she can't, we have an upstairs and a downstairs. She can't go upstairs, that's where the guest bed. So I literally would take her, she would go lay down on top of, our bed. That was how much of just diving, those guys deep dive in. And I would say, all right, sleep until you're ready to get up.
Yep.
And she would sleep for an hour and a half. She'd get up, and she was drinking probably a gallon of sweet tea a day. I'm not even kidding. And so we deep dived into what her nutrition. We had her meet with a sports nutritionist.
Yep.
She met with Lauren Link, who's the Purdue sports nutritionist.
Shout out.
What's up, Lauren? Link to Nutrition. Follow her on Instagram. Fantastic. So she met. We got her on We got her on some stuff like lion's mane, magnesium, all these different things that she needed to do, because you have to set yourself up with the end in mind.
Right.
Every single thing that she did every single day was going to add up.
Right.
And so when she came, so her right arm was, locked like this. We were getting it down. I literally would do arm curls with her, where I'm moving her arm. I would be dripping sweat.
Yeah.
It was so spastic on moving that stuff. We got her hooked up with craniosacral therapy. I was introduced to, shout out Mindy Ewing, one of the best craniosacral. I didn't even know what it was at the time. We're going to have her on a podcast. And going into chiropractor. So we were driving in the middle of winter 3 times a week down to, shout out Dr. Mike, was just on the podcast. Go check his out. 3 times a week to get her into the chiro.
Yeah. Yeah.
So just finding every single thing you can do to tap into the central nervous system. And we were working on my I am statements. I would have her look in the mirror and say, I am walking, I am balanced, I am healed. I am walking, I am balanced, I am healed. I am walking. She can write with her left hand. I made, just like I do with my kids, they're learning how to write their names. Like you do like the dots and you connect the dots to spell things. I had sheets that I had printed out that she would trace. I am walking, I am balanced, I am healed. So it's getting somebody's stinking mindset ready to go on this journey. And so that was some of the deep dive stuff. I could go even more and more into all that stuff of what we did just to get her body prep. Now, she's lost 40 to 50 pounds. She doesn't use a wheelchair anymore, only if they have to go like a super far away and it's like a long walk to somewhere like at Mackey Arena or somewhere like that. She's at a game. She just had hand surgery, January 3rd. She's recovering right now. We're praying for you, Ren. That hand, they went in and they fixed, the tendons in it. And she is crawling. She is, able to do tall kneeling on two knees. She has taken 2 unassisted steps. She's able to stand and to balance for a certain amount of time. These are all things that were not like she was in a wheelchair when she first started. And so if the spirit and the mind goes first and then your body follows. And that's exactly the mindset. I call it 1 + 2 = 3. Spirit plus your mind plus equals the physical. And we had to start with her spirit and her mind, and everybody's following her journey now, and they're seeing like, holy cow, like this girl, the physical things that are happening, it started with her spirit and her mind.
100%. And I want you to describe the moment in the story of her taking those steps.
Yep. So we were at a craniosacral session at Mindy Ewing's. She just got up off the table many times. Like, Corinne's one of the most stubborn people I've ever met, and like if you're not, she's gonna figure out. I have another story after this. It's hilarious. Not really everything worked out, but really good stubborn story of Corinne. But we're at Mindy's, and so she got herself up. So we worked a lot over the last year and a half of her being able to go from a sit to a stand position. So she leans forward, she does her mechanic, she gets herself up, and like, go for it. Go for it, Ren. And she's like looking at me. I'm like, go for it. And so she takes a step.
Yep.
And the biggest thing is like we're really, really focused on her balance.
Right.
She sticks it. Mm-hmm. So, and then she takes another step.
Boom.
She sticks it. And like the confidence that came like in that room, that moment. Mindy was there, I was there, Corinne was there, was you could feel the energy. Like it was this, oh my goodness, I can't even explain it. Next step, she lost her balance on that one, we catch her. But to be able to work 3.5 years straight to take 2 unassisted steps. Right. But those 2 unassisted, like people have no idea how hard this girl has worked. I can't even explain, harder than it's been the most fascinating, it's been the most honoring, it's been the most life-changing experience to be a small part and a vessel in this whole thing.
Yep. And shout out to Corinne. I know you're listening to this. I love you, girl. Love you, sis. And nobody knows how hard she has worked. The whole purpose, though, of this podcast and not taking anything away from Corinne, I want to dive into your perspective, your coaching here, your journey here. In that, yes, she did the work, but I can say as your husband, and I'm going to pull this out from my perspective, but I saw the work that you did. I saw all the times where you'd stay up till wee hours of the morning studying the body, studying how to help her to get where she is today. And no one has worked harder than you either. And I will say that. And you have approached this situation with the same intensity, the same passion, the same vitality that you did with becoming Miss Basketball, becoming All Big Ten at Purdue. Like, I have seen it. I've seen you live it, eat, sleep, breathe it, to opening up your whole life to it. And that's how laser focused you got to be to win a championship that's how laser focused you got to be Miss Basketball. That's how laser focused you got to do anything great. That's how you got to be to follow the Holy Spirit and to do what God, to compete, to do what God calls you to do even when it's hard. So I want to ask you now, like, describe your day-to-day, like, just like you, there's a process and a system to become a great basketball player. Mm-hmm. Talk to our audience about you being basically Corinne's best coach and what you did to become Corinne's best coach.
I'm going to start with the thought cycle. So you have a thought, which becomes an emotion or a feeling. You have an action, you have a result. And it's just a cycle that keeps going on. So we all have a choice where we want to spend our time, where we want to spend our attention, and where we want to really laser focus in. How you said, when I was younger, it was become the best basketball player I could be. Then it's becoming, like, this is a continual thing, is being the best wife, being the best mom, being the best CEO, and this compete mentality and getting this out there. And then here comes becoming a TBI exercise specialist. And so this all just didn't happen. So when I was up late nursing my kids when they're babies, there's a guy named Mike Robertson.
Yep.
He is the owner of iFast in Indianapolis. When I was training to go play basketball overseas, I went down and I trained with him. It was phenomenal. He has online courses that I would stay up. I'd be up late at night, and I completed all his courses. Mm-hmm. So going into being Corinne's coach, like, the first thing that her family said was she needs to get her core stronger. I'm like, I studied all about the core. And so you always got to stay ready. It's the biggest thing. You got to stay ready. So when the moment came, I was ready.
Yep.
When I'm up late studying Mike Robertson, the R7 approach, so like all these things, it's a fantastic course that he has. I thought it was to train athletes. I thought it was to be a physical fitness coach. I had other clients, Gen Pop clients.
Yep.
It was preparing me for this moment.
100%.
Okay, so on a daily. So what does it look like? What are some things I like to be applicable? What are things people can be doing? So flashback last year, 2023. I'm not one of those people that's going to put out everything that I'm doing. Like, I'm just going to do the work and then I'll tell you about it later. So I'm going to tell you about what I did in 2023. So one of my goals was to run a mile every day.
Yep.
Okay, simple, right? Doesn't take that long to run a mile. Had to be outside. Had to be, no matter what the weather was, I was going to go out and do it. So for the first 6 months of the year last year, I would go out and run a mile. It didn't, like, I was running in the dark, make me run a little faster. Think coyotes were chasing me. One time we were in Disney World and, like, spent 13 hours at Magic Kingdom. We got back. It was 11:36 p.m. I hadn't ran my mile. I'd walked a lot of miles, and I remember I went and
this girl's crazy.
I went and I ran my mile.
Yep.
Like, the consistency of those things, though, it's training your brain, and I call it habit stacking.
Yep.
So those things roll over another thing. So another thing in last year, no alcohol, not one single drop. Okay. Yep. Did I have a problem with alcohol? No. I just got to the point in my spirit where it was like, I'm not even really, like, even if I'm at a game, I'm having a beer or like something, like, or I'm out riding on the lawnmower on a hot summer day, drinking a cold Busch Light, like, like, it wasn't. I didn't need it.
No.
I wore a Whoop band, which tracks your sleep, and even when I would have
a big one.
Like one drink, the amount that it affects your sleep, I'm like, man, this is crazy. Like that, even just one,
it's
like
horrible.
I'm not even doing that. It's awful for you.
Yep.
Like, and so I removed myself from alcohol, and you have a whole different perspective. Like, we live in a drunk world. Like, there's stuff everywhere. So it's like being sober and drunk. Every single thing, like, most things are focused around alcohol. So anyway, one of my habits was I removed it.
Yep.
So 2024 here, I have a lot of people ask me, so you gonna have a drink New Year's Eve?
Nope.
Don't need it. and like, for anybody, like, I'm not coming
It's
down.
just
This
a
just for me.
conviction for you.
This just for
Right.
me. Like I knew where I'm going, the coach I want to be, the mom. Like I don't even want it at all.
Yeah.
Like I want to be so in tune with the Spirit. I don't want anything to alter anything.
Right.
And so things that I'm doing this year. So every morning when I wake up, so I'm waking up. You got to wake up before your kids get up. If you wake up the same time your kids get up, you ain't getting your stuff done. Okay, and you feel off. So I've learned this. So I wake up before my kids get up. One of my goals this year is to work out every single day.
Right.
Okay, have done it so far, 10 for 10, and feel great. Okay, so
Yep.
work out every single day of the year. And as a coach, I have to work out every single day. It is a very physical, mental, spiritual, like everything
Right.
together job when you're working with somebody who, like, I'm pretty much a caretaker, a nurse, a fitness instructor, a
Mindset coach.
Like, there's so much that goes into when you're caretaking for somebody and you're helping somebody who needs,
Yeah.
like Corinne's got to go to the bathroom. Like, I'm helping her to the bathroom. She needs to get it. Like, it's very physical, and it's
Someone with a TBI.
yeah. So and I love it though.
Yeah,
I
right.
love it. Like I
Absolutely.
love it.
Yep.
But I have to take care of myself, or I'm not going to be best able to take care of Ren. And this goes out. Shout out to anybody who is a coach, a parent, a spouse. Like, you got to take care of yourself. You got to take care of yourself, because when you're taking care of yourself, you can better take care of other people. So what I have to do, I have to take care of my mind, body, spirit, so that I'm able to physically help another human being. It's different. Like, I'm a mom, so like it's this with your kids when they're babies. Like, you're doing it. You're in that same. So shout out to the mamas out there and
Yep.
the dads who are raising newborns. Like, you're right there. Our sister-in-law, like, baby Ben, our nephew, like, she's in it right now,
Yep.
and you can see it. Like, they rely on us as
You
parents,
to
and
survive.
then they get to a point where they start walking, and it's less. They kind of gain their independence, but like,
Yeah.
so it's like working a 22-year-old who is still in. She's not, but like she
Yeah.
needs help with everything.
Right.
The goal is, the vision is, she's gonna be doing all that stuff on her own.
Yep.
And we are
And
taking steps, and she's
yes.
getting there. She eats on her own. She
Yep.
does all those things. She's able to call, to do, like,
Yep.
she is very in tune and knows what's going on, which
100%.
is a beautiful thing in all this, because she's gonna go.
Right.
And so
Yeah.
I know I'm supposed to be talking, but like,
No,
I just got it. Like, those are some things I did last year that were game changers, and I probably read over 40 or 50 books last year. I'm looking up the best courses I can take. I'm studying. I'm going
Hold
driving.
on. 40 or 50 books.
40
you
or
read.
50 books, yeah.
Okay.
So for you, your time that you love going out, sitting in the woods hunting. Like, I love to read, and I always have ever since I was a little girl. Like,
Yeah.
I read, and I'm not reading like fiction. I'm reading nonfiction. How can I self-help books? I've been deep diving into the mind, deep diving into brain injuries, and deep diving into like everything that we need to
Yep.
help people in our mindset training, and flip side, help our TBI patients.
No, that was a perfect answer to describe where you've been and what you've been doing since you've been away from the podcast. And I can't wait to go back and listen to that answer again and take notes and to pull out for my own growth there. But Courtney, I kind of want to finish our podcast now, closing out what you've learned. So 2021 to 2023, where you have been going down the path of the Compete Training Foundation, spearheading that, leading that, mindset, full-time with Corinne, being a mom of young toddlers. What is the one lesson that God spoke to you during that time frame?
Don't have 14 puppies during that time with your dogs. No, because that was
Which we did.
That was part in there. Love our dogs. Shout out to the dogs, but
Shout out Grace and Grizzy.
yeah, and all the homes that all those beautiful puppies went to. I know they're making such impact.
Yeah.
But back to, like, for real, I would say, man, during that time, something that I really learned was anything is possible with God. And I also learned that during that time, so we can become so ultra focused, so like into the doing,
Yep.
that there's so much power in just being. And so there was this point where I remember I had like talked to Corinne. I said, Ren, I just want to apologize to you. Like, we're focused and like we got into like this like couple months where like we were just on the grind. Like,
Yeah,
we were
you
doing
were
all the
getting-
things, doing all the things. I said, I really want to focus. I said, I'm sorry. Like, I just want to lay my hands on your knee where it's all tore up, and your hand, and like, and just pray for
Yep.
your healing.
Yep.
Because I said that's where the ultimate power is going to come from. Like, it's
100%.
nothing like we can. If God wants you, like, wants anybody, like, wants her to walk right now, I said, you
over.
can get up and walk. But I said,
Ugh, got goosebumps.
and so just as much as we get into things, like, you just have to be still, and like we are on this earth to serve God and the gifts He's given us.
Yep.
And you just gotta. I said at the beginning of this podcast, like, I didn't feel qualified to step into some of the things that I was doing these last 2 years. But what I've learned is God qualifies us.
That's it.
And when you are in partnership with the Holy Spirit and you're in partnership with God,
I love
and
that
you
word.
just have a willing heart and an open mind that you're ready to learn and you're ready to be used, whew, be ready.
Yep.
Watch out. And you see what, like,
Yep.
you just got to, and you just got to do it.
You just got to do it.
You just got to do it. And lessons will present themselves over and over in your life. There was a time
Yep.
I put out a email to the head coach of the San Antonio Silver Stars, asked to go try out for WNBA team. They said yes. I didn't go.
This was 2014.
2014. I'm being asked to go into a situation where I, like, during that time, like, physically I was ready, but mentally I wasn't. Like, I just
Yep.
doubted.
Yeah.
And so it presented itself again
In a different form.
in a different form, and I said yes. And it has been the most beautiful journey.
Wow.
For my spirit and my soul, it's been the most beautiful journey of what's transpired, and for our kids to be able to, like, you can't make this stuff up. For our kids
Can't make it
to be around and to be aware, and for you're in this 100%. I mean, Mr. Chef Boy JD, cooking a lot of times. You're cooking us healthy lunches, making sure that we have everything we need, and like, it's just been beautifully written, and it's not over yet.
Not over.
But it all took with taking that
first step.
obedience. So
Yeah.
I guess that's one of the other things is just obedience and trust.
It's stepping out of the boat.
Stepping out of the boat.
And you did that, and Corinne did that, and this story's not over. You and Corinne, I'm going to speak it into existence, are going to be on platforms all over the country speaking and telling your guys' story, and I'm so proud of you both for that. Compete Training Academy family, thank you for joining us today. If you were a first-time listener, you got a really in-depth look of my wife, Courtney Delks, and what she's been doing. Thank you for joining us today. Also, for you faithful listeners, I'm so grateful that you meet us here each and every single week. If this impacted you today, it impacted my soul greatly, please share this with somebody, 2, 3, 5 people, and also subscribe, leave a comment on our podcast. We would greatly appreciate that. And thank you for joining us each and every week. Courtney, thanks for sharing your vulnerable story of where you've been.
Thank you, and I got to put this in there. It's a new tax year, so we are fundraising. So if this deeply touched your soul and you want to help these TBI patients that we're coming around and support, you want to keep these journeys going, we would love to love for you to give one time, love for you to partner monthly, and you can go to CompeteTrainingFoundation.org, and there's information on there, and you can get a hold of us. get a hold of me, and we can talk about that. So would love for that to happen. And we have in our barn out here, the CTA barn, we have banners for businesses. And so if your business wants to market, all of that money is getting put back into the foundation to help with the care for our TBI patients. So you can get a 2-for-1 there. So
Boom.
Help out. Get your marketing, tax write-off. It's going to be up in the barn. All kinds of people from all over coming into our barn. So that's my little marketing there. But
Love
appreciate it.
Go compete, y'all.